What's up, everyone? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome back to another market review episode. This is August 12th, 2022, and we're going to be looking over at the market, see the kinds of trades that I took, that I failed, and that I missed on. I hope this video serves its purpose as a study session for those who are learning the ICT concepts, as I am as well. So let's dive into it. Yesterday, we did get a tap on that buy side liquidity. Upon reviewing how the weekly candles being formed, after it opened, manipulated, and now it's distributing, um, I see that we also tapped. I noticed that tap of the buy side liquidity was going to be kind of like the peak of the week, if you will. That was my prediction, and so as you can see, that's the big high of the week. I figured today was going to be a pretty much like a zigzag kind of day, kind of just like a flat. So not really exciting in terms of higher time frame ranges, but in lower time frame ranges, I think it's pretty exciting. So okay, so these, as you can see, also too, IGT tends to say that tends to create the low of the week. And for this week in particular, yeah, that's pretty much on the money because Tuesday's low ended up being the low of the week. And if you noticed, it reacted very nicely off this 8-hour fair value gap. So it used that as its springboard to create that low of the week. So if you caught some good price action here, oh, you made a killing. So the way I started it off is as usual, the high and low of yesterday's high and low. So what I noticed this morning during the Asian session was that we had its high and its low, represented by this blue box, broken out of, and during London session, we retraced back through the Asian sessions. And so what I suspected as a result was kind of similar as yesterday, was that we were going to expect an expansion during the New York session. And that's it's crazy because it's like this is kind of happening right now. And we're targeting this 1 hour fair value gap. And as I said, I wasn't really expecting much movement in terms of higher time frame because as you saw in the daily range, we had already created the peak touching this buy side liquidity, if you remember. But what I noticed was during the Asian session was that the Asian session actually left an OB represented by this red box right here around 3 a.m. around London Open. Funny enough. So what I waited on was price to create this, I think it's called a smart money reversal. So I noticed this kind of formation happened as soon as we broke out of this long time frame ranges fair value gap. I noticed we went up to its premium levels of this fair value gap and broke downwards, causing this fair value gap to be rebalanced. So this is going to be very important as we're going to cover this later. After this higher time frame fair value gap was rebalanced, this high right here from the London session at 4:30 a.m. was the intermediate high of this higher time frame range that I have here. See the buy side liquidity, there's a sell side liquidity down here, all this. So I already knew this level was going to be very important as we approach the New York session open. I thought something that was going to be very important was that if I suspected an expansion during New York session, and we have an OB here pushing for higher prices, and if we looked at our S&T was pretty much in confluence this morning. Like when it was creating lower highs, all the other indices were also creating lower highs. When it was creating higher highs, all the other indices were creating higher highs. So the market was in sync. So I had like so much reason to suspect that, but at the time I wasn't really aware of that. So this was a trade that I missed this morning, and it was this one. As we were coming back down after we rebalanced that fair value gap up here, as we price was creating lower prices, I noticed that we bounced off this OP just nicely. And if you look closely, so here we have a range, right? High, and it's low form. You see being represented by this green line. So you'll notice that what price ended up doing was it dipped into that sell side liquidity, mind you, in an OP, and it broke structure up. We're breaking over this fair value gap. So that gives me even more confidence that this is what price is going to perhaps create higher prices. So what did I tend to notice? We rebalanced this fair value gap. Now this high this high is an intermediate high. We broke structure from it, created this range. We made our OB because this is our last spot where we had selling pressure. And here's our fair value gap right here, 50%. And this could have been the trade of the day. Could have we targeted premium side fair value gap here, or we could have even aimed for the initial goal, which was this big fair value gap. Now that we have our bias direction, I was like, okay, so it looks like we're going to have that New York expansion of higher prices and perhaps even target this fair value gap. So let's continue to look for costs to support that narrative. And fortunately for us, there was another fair value gap right here, created by this range that was left over behind. So if we go to the 5 minutes, we have another range right here. You can see swing high, swing low. And as you can see, we have this fair value gap here, but it wasn't really rebalanced fully. So I kind of considered it like eligible to see a move. And so that's what we ended up seeing. We saw price get it, dip into it again, created a fair, rebalanced it, created an intermediate high. Now we were looking for cost to support, and so we did. So here's our fair value gap rebalance. Now this high becomes an intermediate high, and look what it created. It created another range, swing high, swing low, with a fair value gap as well in the premium. So I thought if we're looking for buys and we're gonna buy it at premium, I better see like a fractal come into play. Here, look what ended up happening during that mitigation of that fair value gap. We had a breakthrough. We had another range develop, swing low, swing high. We had the selling pressure, so this is our OP, and we had our fair value gap, surprisingly, in the discount zone of this range. And you'll notice that the price came back down to mitigate exactly 50% of this fair value gap before it took off. Now this one, I actually had my order in, like I actually had it on my ep.5, but I was never filled. So I was really upset about this. Around 9:13 in the morning was that price shot up aggressively from this intermediate high, which remember was that long term that was rebalanced after the London Open. So you can see how it's all coming down together. We had a breakthrough of this intermediate high, and now it's like, okay, great. My rule states that now I gotta look for that range responsible for that break of intermediate high. And why were we supporting bullish prices? Well, because of everything that was coming together. We successfully reacted off this OB. We were expecting an extension during the New York session, and now we've just broken this intermediate high. So I'm getting pretty excited about what's going to happen during the New York Open. However, I wasn't really going to play the New York Open simply because things go crazy at 9:30 in the morning. I was here, right? I saw this range being created as soon as we broke the intermediate high. And I suspected, okay, look, I found my fair value gap. I would like to see a fractal develop to support the idea of higher prices, so that we can shoot it up to the moon, right? This is going to be the trade of the day. But as soon as 9:30 hit, I said, you know what? I'm going to step off for a bit. I know markets go crazy at 9:30, so I'm going to see what happens. And market broke through. I was like, oh crap! I guess the idea is scrapped. Let's throw it away. But let's not lose hope, y'all, because in the 15-minute chart, if you look at it nicely, if you look at it from a what I like to call a hawk's eye point of view, because they're higher time frame, you see that this range that was responsible for breaking this intermediate high was actually this one. Here we have the swing low here created from 7 a.m. and this is our swing high. Right? Because this is all bullish action, so I consider all this my move. And what highs did it break? These highs. It broke these highs right here. So this is my ICT module, I guess you can say. And here's my fair value gap on discount after the breakthrough of intermediate high. So I had to check this out later, but yeah, I was like, oh snap, it makes sense to wait for this fair value gap to be mitigated. So it was going to be a higher time frame hold, right? So I got the mitigation. So these are my FIP levels. And I was targeting these at -1. So this is my potential trade 3.6, a really good trade, mind you. But I didn't notice it until after it all happened, right? Because I was like, oh, okay. So we broke down through these lows, and look which fair value gap it reacted off nicely. This one. This trade could have been a really good trade, in the sense that it could have all up to my target levels, that would have been just an awesome day, back to back, right? You know, 1, 2, 3, and they were all hitters. Oh, that would have been amazing. But you know, sometimes you can't really make price do what you want. So this is what happened. It retraced back to the zero level, so I would have taken 50% off the position, and eventually it could have stopped you out right here, because at 10 a.m. we had news, major news at 10 a.m. and it dipped back down to break even. So I mean, these were all misses, to be honest. But upon seeing them, you know, I'm gaining confidence in the way I trade. I'm gaining trust in the system that was given to me. But for now, things are looking pretty good. Today would have been a green day, no doubt. And now we're here. So what I predict is going to happen for the rest of the day. You know what? We still have London close, and as you know, London close tends to perform usually the opposite of what New York has done, or usually creates the low of the entire day or the high of the entire day. And the way we're seeing price behave, I predict we're gonna have to see price develop in such a way where it mitigates up this fair value gap and probably closes down to these levels, right? Which is another daily fair value gap that was left unmitigated. So by Friday evening, or yeah, later in the evening, I suspect price was just going to keep going down. So yeah, that's one of my predictions. Those are the trades that I saw today. Caught anything today? Let me know, and that'd be pretty cool to share. What kind of what was it that you were looking at? And yeah, so hope you had a good trading day. Hope you had a good trading week. Hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next time.